Ah, there we go. Happy Friday, everybody. Today is June something. It's not the 4th of July weekend yet. It's June 26th. You're hanging out with my community manager, the community built by, for, and managed by community managers. As always, you can chat along with us at our Twitter chat at hashtag CMGR Hangout, where I know a bunch of you are hanging out right now, so that's really cool. Definitely, as always, guys, tweet in questions. As we go on today, we'll bring the best ones on air and have these awesome people below us here answering those questions. So if you love what you're seeing today, and maybe you have an idea for a topic, or you just want to come hang out live on air with us some Friday, head over to our website at mycmgr.com. There's a participate button. You can fill that out. And Sherry, Dom, and I get those emails, and we connect with you. And it's really you guys who keep this going every Friday. So, all right. What do we have for you this week? Well, if you're watching this now or chatting with us over on Twitter, you're probably in a Twitter chat, or a Twitter chat community, I should say. But you might also be wondering how to start your own, or what makes them work, what makes them fail. Maybe you just want to improve one that you're already running. So as meta as this may be, this week we've gathered up some of your favorite Twitter chat founders and chat hosts to talk about Twitter chat communities. So with that, we'll just let everybody introduce themselves. So I'd love you to introduce yourself, and then what chats you sort of basically give a nice plug for your chats. All right. So and we'll start with Sherry, and then work our way down to Sarah, Nicole, Dewey, Kristen, and Aaron.
Hey guys, I'm Sherry Rohde, and I'm the community manager at Magento, which is an open source platform for e-commerce, as well as co-produce CMGR Hangout here with Brew and Dom. And I work with CMGR Hangout, if you didn't catch that, so you should be here right now, which you are.
Hey guys, I'm Sarah Nagel. I'm the community outreach manager at Sprout Social. Sprout is a social media management platform, and I started Sprout Chat here a little over a year ago, and I frequent a lot of other Twitter chats as well.
And I'm Nicole Miller from Buffer. I help out with the community efforts there. And I help out also with the Buffer Chat, which we started about a year ago and have every Wednesday. It's just been an amazing community, and we join in a lot of other chats as well from the Buffer handle.
Hello everybody, my name is David Jones. I'm from the Welsh language Arawdd Gymraeg. We use the hashtag YAGYM. We chat on Wednesday evenings UK time, 8 PM, and it's not like a normal chat. We use topics. We use it's a free-for-all where everybody can advertise their own products and what they've got to speak about in the Welsh language.
Hi guys, I'm Kristen Cardos. I am involved with actually quite a few chats at different levels of involvement. Social Business Hour, Cloud Talk, MCEO Talk, T-Chat. So I spend a lot of my time on Twitter involved in chat communities. Glad to be here.
And I am Aaron Kilby, Director of Marketing for a company in North Scottsdale, Arizona called Artisan Color. And actually, in 2011, Brew pretty much is the one that got me involved in Twitter and Twitter chats. So since then, I've started one called Media Chat. That's every Thursday evening at 10 Eastern Time. And since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. And I'm such a Twitter chat junkie that, it's hard to miss, but there's so many out there, but it's been great.
Sweet. Well, hey everybody, if you missed it, I am Brew, the Director of Awesome with BTC Revolutions, and co-host here with Sherry and Sarah and Dom and Carrie. So hopefully I didn't miss anybody. All right, guys. So first question is, by the way, I have to tell you this. You guys took direction fantastically. I think this is the first time in CMGR Hangout history that everyone just went right in order, right like they were supposed to. It was like you guys did a great job. So you passed the first test.
There weren't even any awkward gaps.
No, I know. This is great. We just Can you guys just show up every Friday? So, all right. Some of you started a little bit about this, you know, and Aaron, you kind of briefly talked about it, but can you guys talk about how you really first got started in Twitter chats? So don't be shy, just talk over each other.
Well, I'll jump in again. Like, I'm
Go
sorry.
Aaron. No, you
like
go
I
ahead.
said, you know, way back when I was on Facebook and all the other stuff, and Twitter I just didn't get. I mean, this was, like I said, it was 2011. And working with Brew, we used to work at the same company at the time, and he said, you know what, this is what you do, and then he started talking about chat, so I got into it, and you know, every night I found one that was a fit for me and was just totally immersed into it. And it was funny because when I started, it was more of a joke actually, and Jessica Northey used to joke around how social media, you sit in your underpants and do social media all day long or whatever. So I started, it was called Pants Chat, and it was a joke, you know, but people started coming in and it just started growing, and I'm like, if I'm going to make this into something, I have to change the name and make it more broad, so it turned into Media Chat, but it was kind of a funny start and didn't know where it would go, and it was more for fun, so.
That's awesome. I totally forgot about Pants Chat.
Oh, yeah.
I got started by accident. I'll just chime that in. Like, I didn't have a, you know, professional, I'm going to use this to network and learn and grow. No, I was just on Twitter one day and saw some hashtag and was like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, this is happening. That's how I got started.
Nice.
Unlike you, Kristen, I think it was actually a coworker that had suggested jumping into various Twitter chats just to kind of grow my Twitter handle, which is Sprout Sarah, which is kind of like a co-branding effort with me and Sprout. And I just got started, and I met so many incredible people, started learning so much, and just kind of getting a good feel for the chats, for Twitter chats in general. And then about, I think it was 8 months after that is when I started Sprout Chat. So I already had all these people that I knew that were avid chatters. So that was a really great way to kind of build up to starting our own.
That's awesome. I stumbled upon them too and just kind of found myself joining in them occasionally. And then once I joined Buffer, I found that I just was engaging in Twitter a whole lot more. And the Buffer community is so strong in Twitter, so it felt like a great way to just kind of branch out and really get to know everyone and represent Buffer at the same time. So then from there we started Buffer Chat in similar fashion. So.
Julie, how about you? How did you get started? Oh, you got to just take yourself off mute. All good. Oh, you're still on mute. I wonder. All right, well, as we're trying to get you off mute, I will tell you a story about how I got started in Twitter chats. I actually, I had a Twitter like a long time ago, like before I started getting into Twitter, because somebody told me about it, and so I signed up, and I followed a bunch of famous people, and I was like, and I really didn't use Twitter much, and then there was a conference called Ungeeked that came to Milwaukee. My friends told me that I totally needed to be at, and they were like, yeah, and you can meet all the people on Twitter beforehand. I was like, what? And so they basically taught me how to follow the hashtag and then follow the hashtag for the conference and meet all the people there. And then after that, I just like fell in love with Twitter, started researching it, like how do people use it, and then found a list on the internet that someone had compiled of like all the chats. And since I love Twitter and just couldn't put it down, I just started jumping into all those chats to meet people and hang out and find different communities, and so that's how I got started, just being involved in chats. How about you, Dewey?
It was the Welsh language hour that first started me with Twitter chat. Who's, you know, the Welsh language was started by Hugh Marshall, after he saw a similar chat hour in England, so he started the Welsh language hour. So that's how I started back in 2012 when the Welsh language hour started, because there wasn't that many. I wasn't aware of that many chats at the time. So that's how we got into it. So as time got on, I joined into other Twitter chats that they're available on Twitter.
So, from your points, especially those of you who have kind of company chats, why did you or your company really decide to do this? Like, what was the reasoning behind starting a chat? And you can't just say marketing.
I was definitely the one who was championing for starting a Twitter chat. And I feel like our chat is a really great way for people who maybe don't use our product or don't work at a company that has the budget for a social media management tool like Sprout. It's a great opportunity for them to connect with each other and connect with the company as well and kind of get to know us on a different level, but also just to chat about industry topics and learn from each other too. So, I mean, it's been a really great way to kind of expand our community beyond just customers.
Cool.
Okay, well, for Social Business Hour, Brian Fanzo and Rachel Miller, as I understand it, they actually, and it's not a company, obviously, but they, as I understand it, met during other Twitter chats or a specific other Twitter chat, and they had some common ideas and some interest in social business, and they wanted to kind of provide a way to amplify some of their thoughts, bring in some other people and amplify their thoughts and connect people around that idea. So that's how it got started.
Our co-founder, Leo, had started a Twitter chat back in the early days of Buffer, I think 2011-ish, and called it Tools Chat. It's where they talked about social media tools, and he found it to be a really great way to just interact with other Twitter users and introduce people to Buffer, as well as talk about current events and topics and anything relevant to the industry. So when I joined, he felt that it was a great opportunity to kind of restart that in a similar vein. So that's when we decided to reinitiate a Twitter chat, but we decided to call it Buffer Chat instead. And it took off in a really amazing way. We get to reflect a lot of our blog content on the Twitter chat in kind of a different way, and also learn a lot from the community. It's been a great way to really have our pulse on the community's feelings and what they really need, and we flat out ask if there's any suggestions or ways we can improve our product, and we just get so much valuable feedback from the chat itself that it's been phenomenal.
I'll chime in here and say I think kind of speaking for both Brew and I really, but when Tim asked us if we wanted to kind of take over and keep carrying the torch for CMGR Hangout, it was something where both of us had learned so much from the CMGR Hangout community already about community management, where we wanted to continue to kind of foster that community and really just keep giving back and helping bring other community managers together.
Yeah, and then I think to add on to that, it's like, holy shit, you get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most rewarding parts of it. So.
Yeah, with Welsh Language Hour, because what we've done is because there's only like 500,000 people that speak Welsh in the UK, so the Welsh Language Hour has made the Welsh community even smaller. It's brought everybody together. People in Patagonia and Argentina speak Welsh as well. There's some people in the US speak Welsh. So they've brought everybody together into one spot where everybody can join in, share products, talk, and have a chat. Because Wales is quite a spread out, because everybody's either in the north of the country or south of the country, and there's sheep and mountains in the middle. So, and it's a good way of bringing them together. And social media as a whole really has brought the Welsh language together. It's made the world smaller for everybody.
That's awesome. All right. So for everybody chatting along on Twitter and watching us, again, please feel free to tweet in questions. Just tag at @mycmgr so it shows up on our monitors here, and we'll bring in your thoughts and questions as well. All right. So how much? So let's talk about planning. I think this would be a common question for anyone who's starting a chat. How much planning is involved? Would love to hear from you guys.
I'll jump in. I don't know if I'm a little different than some others, but my day job is so busy that I'm usually here early in the morning and late at night. So there's really no room for me to put much together. You know, I do it on Saturday mornings, and it's kind of my homework for the week. But usually when I bring a guest on, I feel that it's a benefit for them, and that's how I run my chats. Is I usually have a guest every week, so it switches up the topic and everything. So they're not just hearing from me every week, and you know. So I usually put it on the guest to send me questions and a topic that they feel comfortable with, and we go from there. And it's been a success ever, you know, since I've been doing that, and it takes a lot off my shoulders, which really helps. So that's how I run mine.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really cool model, Aaron, that you've built, because you know it's like you've built the attention of the community that loves to show up. You know, by bringing in the different guests, obviously they're bringing in their community slowly but surely. But you know, I think it's a really cool model that you have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who else plans? Oh, go ahead, Dewey.
Sorry. The way we plan it, we've got one person called Jonet who emails everybody once a month to sort out who's the hosts of that week's chat hour, so that she corrals everybody together into an order, so everybody knows who's hosting, who's running the account that week. So then, because our chat is different similar to your Hangout chat, where you've got the set questions, it's a free-for-all with us. Companies jump in and promote their products. You know, people want to rent out an apartment, they'll come in and use the hour. It's just there to promote what they've got that week, and to have a conversation between each other, as I said before.
Similar to Buffer, we base a lot of our Sprout chats on blogs that we've written previously, just because our content team is so great and they come up with such great articles and really relevant topics around what people are searching for, what people are talking about on social. So I mostly just, some weeks I do just plan it kind of the day before, try to get all the information together and get the questions written quickly. But I do always consider each question really carefully and how people would respond, and I think about our community a lot and what their backgrounds are and what kind of companies they work for, and try to make sure that each person can relate in some way to each question.
That's a good point about the questions. I think no matter what format your chat is or what the community, what it's centralized around, having good questions is an art form that's a little bit harder than you realize if you just attend a chat. And I say that based as someone who doesn't really craft questions. Brian and Rachel do that for Social Business Hour. Once in a while they might say, hey, what do you think of this? Or do you have any ideas for a question? But I think there's always that piece of it, which makes, again, Aaron's way of doing it pretty interesting. I like that. And then also, are you having a guest, and you know, how accessible is that person, and what level of follow-up is needed? I know from my experience, there's a general process for planning, but it kind of ebbs and flows, and depending on each week, there might be a little bit more or less involved in it detail-wise.
I can echo you there. It seems to change from week to week, and we're really happy to kind of go with the flow, and if there's not a guest some week, then that's totally fine. We found really great engagement, whether or not there's a guest, which I think is really cool, and we love also letting the community feel like they're driving the chat, so we'll respond to suggestions they have. We do surveys every now and then, or we'll ask the community for suggestions for guests and that sort of thing, and we found a lot of really good results that way as well. Love the point about the questions too, and I rely a lot on my team members for advice there, and so that's been a great resource to bounce ideas off of them, and they are always so brilliant in thinking of just a slightly different way to craft a question that usually will get a ton more engagement than what I might have originally thought. So the questions usually are the most intensive part of the planning process.
Yeah, I'll say ours often come from submissions, which is why we ask for them all the time. Brew is laughing because sometimes there's a gap. I'll have like 2 or 3 months out in advance, and then there'll be like 2 or 3 weeks or the day before. I'm like, guys, what are we talking about? I don't even know.
And that's like I'm like right about to fall asleep, and my phone's like bzz, bzz, and I look, and then Sherry, she's like, hey, you got any ideas for these questions?
Yeah, usually it's the questions, or I ping you guys like last minute because I'm just brain dead on them, because they are the hardest part. You always have to make sure that they're tweetable and that they can't be answered yes or no, and that they make sense for both the guests and everyone watching. And it's like, oh man,
Yeah,
there's a lot that goes into them.
It's an art form, yeah. I mean, I think it. I mean, it really is an art form. We have, so we do for our consumer-facing brands that we do social for. A lot of them we now do weekly chats, and what we do there is actually we have these like sessions that are like 3 to 4 hours long with a handful of people on a Hangout actually. All sharing a Google document, and we write an entire campaign window's worth of topics and questions. And so we literally do like 3 to 4 months sometimes of chats for each brand at a shot, and then work through a series of revisions and things like that, and then kind of start with a calendar as well to see like, okay, well, for each week, like what's relevant that week? Should we be talking about summer? How does it line up with how our campaign messaging is and things like that? So we found early on when we started offering chats, we just found like we tried to do it the way we do it, kind of a lot of us do it here, which is like, oh yeah, the week before you just figure out what you're doing, but that just got to be so much work, and so by doing it in big chunks, it was a lot more manageable from the brand side. All right, so let's see. Do we have any questions coming in? How important do you think? Oh, here we have one. So we'll bring that in next. All right, question number 4. Is that what we're on? What do you find? Okay, what do you find are the most effective ways to promote your chats? You know, so I know, you know, how many times are you messaging it? Are you reaching out to people? Let's share some tips and tricks on that.
So I'll jump in. I do once each day, sometimes depending Mondays or Saturdays, I start one tweet a week, or a day, sorry, through the media chat handle and my own, and then I usually retweet it at the end of the day, and through that, that's enough. And then started a Facebook and a Google Plus Hangout, or Google Plus page for the group, and it's grown a lot, and so I do the weekly post there, and that's really all I do.
I think undoubtedly the best way to promote a Twitter chat, at least for in Sprout Chat's instance, is to specifically notify each person that has participated in the chat before. I've actually kept lists of people who participated in the weekly chat just so I kind of have them on my radar. And then through kind of listing all those Twitter handles out, I've gotten to know each person really well and kind of memorized their first name or where they work or where they're from. And I think just that personal calling out is a really great way to get them feeling a little bit more invested and definitely more interested in coming to the chat. We previously had a Google Plus community to keep people updated and let them know what the weekly topic was, but I feel that since we've transitioned over to a Facebook group, it's a lot more effective. I create a weekly event and people get those notifications and they check in on their Facebook a lot more often too, so I think that that's a really great way too to stay top of mind with your community.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, like as with anything, to look at who your audience is and where they are. And obviously they're on Twitter because you're having a Twitter chat, but also where else can you pull them in? Like, so for example, since we do have a Google Plus Hangout, we have a notification circle that people can subscribe to. And so whenever we post the event each week on Google Plus, anyone in that notification circle automatically gets pinged about it. As well as you know, we have a preview post on our blog every week. So whoever subscribed to our blog then gets an email with who's the topic, the panelists, and all the information on how to join. And then obviously we tweet it out as well. So I wish I had the time to go through and individually notify every person that's ever participated, but this actually isn't my full-time job, so I do not.
I mean, it's incredibly time intensive, so I completely understand that. But also, Sherry, with CMGR Hangout, the Google Calendar update is really great too, because that keeps everyone in the loop too.
Yeah, and I will say too, what Sarah does with the Storify actually for us is awesome because it notifies everyone that was in it, that they're mentioned in the Storify, and a lot of times that'll get retweeted and just gets greater reach out that way.
Yeah, I love the Storifys too from you guys and doing the ones that I do. I think it helps keep the idea in mind about what's going on with the community and that specific topic for the week or whatever. In terms of how we promote, it's kind of similar to Aaron's strategy of just sort of like maybe one tweet a day. So that's Rachel, Brian, myself, and the Social Business Hour handle. Just maybe one tweet a day. We're not beating people over the head with it. But talking about other channels where you can pull people in, Brian is really active on Periscope and Meerkat. So he's all out there in the live streaming world, and that garners a lot of interest in the chats that he's involved with, that I work with him on. So.
We have a Google Plus community as well, and found that's been a great way to notify people and send out a Google event each week. And we regularly post to Twitter and Facebook and just our social media channels and find good results there. I've also found we send cards and stickers to everyone who participates in Buffer Chat, and that's been just a really great way to and t-shirts sometimes. Kristen is representing Buffer on her shirt today. I love it. And that's been a really great way to really build relationships, and I found a lot of the people who get cards will actually really engage with Buffer and with me personally on Twitter, and then when we see them the next week, we get to remember them by name and really engage with them, and it's been just a really awesome opportunity. And there's definitely no strings attached to the cards we send. We seriously just want to thank people for their time and share some swag. So it's been really rewarding in that respect to see how much of an impact they have.
I will say too, something that Kristen, the chats that you're all involved in with Brian and Rachel, like all 4,000 of them, you guys do a really great job with the graphics too, just like showcasing the guests. So if you have guests, that's another great way to promote it, is make sure they're included like in that graphic and they're tagged in that tweet, because it tends to get a lot more reach that way. It reminds people to kind of broadcast it out to their audience as well, which brings in new people.
Absolutely, and I have to quickly shout out Rachel for that. I have no involvement in making those graphics. I wish I was that good, but yeah, they help. They help a lot.
So something that I don't know if you guys do by accident or if you purposely do it is, I've noticed that so I know specifically there's a couple chats where I've attended one, so then on the night of the chat, like I know Aaron, I get a tweet from you to remind me about Media Chat every week, which I think is cool because for me it's like if I can jump in, I can, and it's like my way of being reminded about it. But what I think is interesting is like I'm always curious at the other Twitter handles that are in the message, right? And so it's like so you're blasting it out to maybe 4 or 5 people, reminding them about the chat. But it's a really cool way. Like sometimes there's people in there where I'm meeting new people. I'm like, oh, I don't know who this is, and I click on their bio and then I follow them, check them out, maybe say hi. Or sometimes I'm mentioned in company that like makes me feel really good, like, oh wow, I'm in the same tweet as so and so, right? Mm-hmm. And so that might be a awesome camera, thanks. That might be a little bit of a pro tip as well. If you're not doing that, to try to do that is take your new people, take your smaller like novice people, and get them in the same conversations as some of the the pros, because it's really a great way to make them feel like a rock star. I remember when back in the day when I did the Meet Meme social trading cards, I in my album of signed trading cards, I had a spot in between Seth Godin and Pete Cashmore from Mashable, and it was always open, and I had this kind of routine where when I'd meet a new customer on the road, then I'd ask them to sign their Meet Meme card, and then I'd put them in between Pete and Seth, and it was like a big wow for them. It felt really good, whatever, and it kind of reminded me very similar when I get those tweets. I'm like, oh wow, I'm in good company right now.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the success of where we've started as well. I built that list and I put a certain amount of people in there saying join us now, And a lot of people do it, and a lot of people even asked if they could use that way to, for their chats, and actually it's worked for them. But I do it literally right when the chat starts, because my ADD is so bad that even 10 minutes before I may be off doing something else, in that 10 minutes. So I literally do it 2 minutes before, and then everybody starts jumping in, the conversation's already going. So people have different ways of doing it, but it's definitely worked for my group.
It's really helped spike metrics and grow the community even on our brand chats for the consumer facing brands. All right, I'm going to take a second and pull in some questions here. Here we go. So we're going to start. So Michael asks, how important do you think it is to not hang on, rewind that. We'll just edit that out in post, right, guys? How important do you think it is to not rely on questions, answers format? Is it best to let conversations go wherever? So anybody got a thought on that?
That's the way we go about it. It's just everybody dips in, and it's a free for all, and it just helps each other. And the problem we see when we do the analytics on it is everybody jumps in the first half hour, and it dies off towards the end, and everybody tends not to stay till the end. And that's the problem with our chat hour.
I think it can be good if you have questions at the ready and you have sort of a framework that you're intending to go with, but you are willing to pivot and let things go where they go. So if you end up scrapping a question, you scrap it, or even quickly composing a different one because the conversation took a turn. I think that works well.
In my experience, most people do stick to the script that you've done historically. So for us, we do 6 questions for the hour, one every about 10 minutes. So I think most people do kind of look to follow that anyways. We don't get a whole lot of people trying to go to a different topic or sway from it at all.
Cool. All right. How about this one? So James, thanks for hanging out with us on Friday. James asks, do Twitter chats have a shelf life? Or does it depend on getting good CMGRs? What are your thoughts, guys?
I've been doing it since 2011, so I haven't had any problems, and I would say it's still growing. Bigger and bigger brands and people that are getting on there, so I don't think, I don't think it will go away as long as the person sticks with it and puts the time into it.
Yeah, I think as long as you're adding value and creating a really welcoming community, that people are going to return and continue to want more. And the longer you go, the deeper the relationships get, and I think that's just going to continue to grow.
I think if anything, they might get a little bit more specified. It seems like there are a lot of Twitter chats out there currently, people in marketing or social media. I feel like that space is getting really saturated. So I think people will maybe steer towards more specific directions, if anything.
Cool. All right. How about this one? This is actually, I just want to bring this in. Frankly Inc. says, as a follower, I wish more organizers would put it on this big list. So this is, I guess, like a tweet reports list, but I love those lists of Twitter chat schedules. I know for a while there was like a document that you could also go into, but this definitely seems like a pretty great spot to find everything. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. Next, Patrick asks, do you guys have an extensive list of the best Twitter chats in our industry? In our industry, I don't know. There might be a Listly on it, but
I know Brian Fanzo has a good list out there, and there used to be a Google Doc way back when that kind of disappeared that everybody built on. But,
I think this looks like one of the original Google Docs that's now just in this format at this tweetreports.com. So.
And let's face it, there's so many chats now, and then, which one is best is so subjective. It's kind of hard. It would be nice almost, I'm going off topic, if Twitter would maybe come up with a list of chats and their topics, because there's so many, one-off directories.
And I have to tell you, it was more of a joke, but we were saying, even this was probably about a year and a half ago, we were joking that there were so many chats out there, and I don't even know why we came up with this, but I'm like, I bet you there's a chat out there on dolls or something like that. And then they chimed in. They're like, oh, are you coming on Thursday night? And I'm like, holy crap, you know. So there really is a chat on everything. You know.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, Marjorie, thanks for hanging out with us. Yes. What has been your biggest challenge with your Twitter chat? Trolls, spammers, endless cat memes? Not necessarily a bad thing, but so what are some challenges you guys have had?
Memes are not a challenge. I haven't had to deal too much with any of that. You get the occasional, you know, spam, like somebody's listening for this certain keyword and they just start jumping into the thread trying to sell their ebook or whatever the heck, but not too much of it that I've had to deal with.
Well, I noticed when you start trending, sometimes you get some people in there, and then more or less throughout the week when I'm not using the media chat hashtag that much, then other people are using it as their whatever they're using it for. But you know, but then Thursday night's usually the full group. So
yeah, our chat hashtag doesn't get trolled that much. We're quite fortunate. Everybody's quite nice and keeps on track.
Same here, not a ton of trolls, but we do see some of those spam tweets at the end sometimes. And then we've done 2 different chats where we've just done social media trivia. And I think that since we said that there are prizes, and there are, it kind of invites a different crowd of people who are on Twitter just to win God knows what. But
Sweepers! Yeah,
yeah. Like, I don't know if he wanted some, like, Sprout chat stickers or, like, what, but this guy was kind of not leaving me alone and DM'd me a couple times, and he shut up. I just ignored him, so that was kind of the biggest thing, but wasn't even really a thing.
That's funny. All right, let's see. I'm gonna jump us into another question here. I think this is really interesting. Frankly, Inc. asks, do you feel like Twitter chats are a hacked way of chatting because other software doesn't exist, or that they're truly the best way? You know, what's interesting, and I'll just start out with a quick thought on this. What's interesting to me about Twitter and hashtags is it reminded me of chat rooms in the early IRC days, because those all started with the pound sign. And so literally you'd do join, pound sign, whatever, and then everything you typed kind of automatically was in that channel. But you know, I think there's probably some inspiration from the old hashtag or the old chat room days that definitely started that. But I think I don't know. There's software out there now, right? Like TweetChat and Nerf and some other places where, you know, it makes it feel more like a chat just using Twitter's back end. But I mean, what else do you guys?
I personally use TweetChat and Twelbs at the same time, and then Twitter. You know, I have basically those 3 pages up at a certain time. But we were talking the other day. I have some programmers here at work, and we were talking about there's really nothing out there. You know, you have your chat and you have your topic and everything else, but there's a lot of side chat as well. You know, a lot of people are catching up throughout the week, and we're thinking of ways of how you can pull that side chat out, you know, and have those going on at the same time. And I don't know. I think the software that's out there is good right now, but I think there's a lot more possibility to build upon those, you know, for chats.
Yeah, I think Nerf is really great. I really love using that for our chats, just because of the format. Like you said, Brew, it is kind of like an old school chat room. But I mean, because of Twitter's openness, I think that, I don't know if they're a hacked way of chatting, but they're definitely an opportunity to meet a lot more people than you would in some other kind of traditional chat format, I think.
Yeah, you know, I think somebody should be genius and make a mobile app that literally just lets you chat and has chat rooms and you know, and just leverages Twitter. Okay, let's see here. We'll bring in another question. Laura. Hey, Laura, how are you? Thanks for hanging out with us. Laura asks, what if you have two distinctly different audiences or communities? How do you bring the two together into one chat? What are your thoughts?
I would ask if you're sure you want to first. But assuming that you have your reasons and you really want to, I'd be looking for whatever is similar rather than different and trying to talk to that.
So in the past, I've worked with other ones. Right now, it used to be Dad Chat right before Media Chat, and now it's Viral Chat, which is growing pretty quickly. But we've worked together sometimes where we'd almost do chats back to back on certain topics and all of that, but never really merged it into one. But it's basically here's an hour, now we're switching over to ours, and that's worked. But other than that, that's about all I've done.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be a good opportunity to look and see if it is worth bringing the two together, or if you can serve each community better with their own chat and really let each individual community kind of dictate where they want to go with that. Because I do think that even two small chats, as long as they're really highly engaged, could be just as valuable, if not more, than one larger chat that maybe doesn't meet each community's needs as deeply as a smaller one might.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Dewey.
Yeah, sorry. We're quite fortunate because we're the only one in the Welsh language, so we haven't got really another chat we can merge with, really, because we're the only ones, and we're there on our own.
Sweet. All right, I'm going to keep us moving. With the questions are just flooding in here. Marjorie asks again, how different is your moderation of your Twitter chat than that of your overall community? Do you have separate rules?
I'd say they're pretty similar, but I think in a Twitter chat you definitely need to be a bit more engaged as the moderator. I always like to see my handle up at the top as the one with the most tweets, just because it's me who's kind of talking to people and corralling them into this space. So I think that you should be a bit more invested and a bit more keen as to what each person is saying, and then always be looking out for the newbies too. Just as you would in your community with any new folks coming in, you definitely want to make sure that people who are having their initial experience are having a really good one.
All right. James. Oh, I said, okay, so Marjorie I also asked, what has been your biggest challenge with your Twitter chat, trolls, spammers, endless cat memes, which we answered before, and James pointed out, just don't start trending and you'll be fine. But his question is, can you tell Twitter not to trend your hashtag? And no, James, you can't. And I would say you'd want to chat trend. I mean, that means everyone's talking about you. But yeah, no, that's not an option. Even with money, you can't pay them not to trend you. Question for the panel. Carmela asks, if you feel a change is needed for your chat, how do you get your audience on board with them? Any thoughts?
That seems like a great opportunity for discussion and really being open and receptive to what your audience wants. And maybe if you feel like a change is needed and they don't, I think it would be wise to listen to their advice and kind of decide which direction might be best, or maybe merge the two in that respect. So I think that's kind of one where it might require a little bit of compromise, or the audience could give you a whole new direction or a whole new option that maybe you haven't even considered yet.
Yeah, I think it's always good to be open to feedback, for sure, and if you do sense that change, just to ask them. Like, I know CMGR Chat did that after they were on a hiatus for a while. They just reached out and had a chat about, what do you want to see here, like what would be helpful here, what kind of topics, what kind of format are you interested in, type of thing.
I think it's always good to give lots of notice, so let them know on as many different channels as you can, as many that they're paying attention to, and just make sure that they're informed and as many people know as possible. And if they don't know, that or if it is a big change, you want it to be something that they're going to relay to other people in the chat as well.
So Jade asks, is it best to publish the questions for people to see beforehand, or just tell the community what the topic is?
I usually just say topic. I don't know. I like to keep it a secret until it happens. Yeah, usually we just have an overall topic each week. People ask, and that's usually good enough for them.
I think there's advantages to doing it either way. I mean, if you put the questions out there, then that might be sort of a teaser and gives people something to chew on ahead of time. The flip side to that is, like I was talking before about maybe adjusting course in the middle of the chat and omitting a question because we ran long, or adding a different one in because of a twist. If you've published the questions ahead of time, then you have sort of a chaos going on. So I think it's good either way, and you just sort of have to decide which route suits you better.
I think part of it too is make sure that if you do have guests or panelists, to make sure you get the questions to them in advance, because some are planners and like to have it thought out in advance. And also, if you've never been a guest, I suggest being one if you have guests on yours, just because it's a completely different perspective. Like, I remember the first time being a guest versus being a host, and I was like, wow, this is way, way, way different. Like, you're more concerned about, it sounds funny, but you're more concerned about how you sound and what you say when you're a guest than when you're a host, because when you're a host, you're kind of just winging it and hosting the conversation, whereas when you're a guest, like, the spotlight's on you to sound smart, and it's a little more scary.
With us, we don't have topics, but when we do have topics, it tends to be the seasonal, like Christmas or Easter. We've got Welsh language cultural events called the Eisteddfod, so a lot of our tweeters might have a physical stand on the events, so we might both bring those in, so we don't have guests of sorts on ours.
And Jade asked another question. Thanks for all the questions, Jade. What do you think is best, video with guests or Q&A to the audience? I think it's all good.
I think either way works, but I probably get my most tweets at the end of the year when I do one without a guest. I do like the start of the year, so like the best of social media, and that's probably the most interactive because it just kind of goes with the flow. But yeah, other than that,
I think with Q&A sometimes you might run into the issue of no one having questions, and although it is just silence within Twitter, sometimes it can seem like it really is like a long pause, a long awkward pause. So I always opt for video, and we're on video today, so us.
Yeah, I think the big thing to note when you do Q&A is to make sure, like, usually when we have a Q&A session, it's either A, we're brain dead on topics, or B, people have just been asking a lot of questions that are really off topic many, many weeks in a row, and then it's kind of a sign that there's a lot of questions to address that maybe aren't all funneled into one category. Also, a lot of times our ask me anything, open mic, whatever type sessions lead to a lot of topic ideas for future Hangouts, because inevitably we come up with questions during that time that are we could talk for a whole hour about easily. And along with that, if you are going to do Q&A, make sure that you have 3 or 4 questions in your head or written down, whatever, that you can ask to get it kicked off with, so that those awkward gaps aren't in there, kind of the filler that you can use.
I actually kind of like it. I don't know if anybody's been to CM Chat, Country Music Chat with Jessica Northey, but she actually does it both ways, where she has the guests, she asks questions to them, and then she'll ask the community of what do they think, here's one for you, and it kind of really interacts with it, and she does a great job with it. I've never tried it that way, but
I have another question that just came in here. It says, is Storify a valid storage file of Twitter chats? And I know, Kristen, you answered online, said it's more of a way to quickly recap, not meant as a repository. My thought specifically on this is hash tracking. It's a small fee each month, but I'll tell you what's great about it is you can see how your reach is expanding each week, your impressions that you're generating off that chat, and then I really like one of their reports does a full recap, so you could go through and see who tweeted the most. It'll help you discover kind of like your advocates of your chat, if that wasn't already obvious to you, and is definitely a way for you to keep the whole chat in one spot. So, anybody else have any tricks in the chat?
Hash tracking is another tool that I use. I use that for the reports. It gives us reach reports, see how well we're doing, and nice little graphs saying how the chat's panned out over the hour.
Yeah, I've been personally using them since they've been in the beta phase, and Charlie over there, Charlie Jeffers, he's awesome. So if you ever need help, he's your guy to go to. But yeah, I've been using him ever since day one, and has everything I need.
I love using Storify too to kind of gather some of the best tweets and then put together content from that. So actually just yesterday I think we had a blog post go up about social media etiquette that was taken just from like 5 or 6 different tweets that I was able to use just to kind of drive different points home within the article. So I think that, I don't think they're that time consuming to put together, and they're a great repository and great way to give something to give to people who weren't able to make the chat and then get them further invested that way.
I don't know if we covered this before, so you guys can tell me. My memory is short. Jade asks, how do you guys deal with people spamming a chat with automated RTs and messages? I mean, is there a way to deal with it?
Ignore it. That's really all you can do.
Don't retweet them, that's for sure. Wouldn't do that. I mean, I think what if it's somebody who's consistently showing up, you can always like report them to Twitter, and then I wouldn't necessarily call them out publicly, but you could message a bunch of your community like, hey, can you help us get this a-hole like reported to Twitter? If they're constantly showing up and just being dumb. But a lot of times when you get that spam, I know like those are just bots that fire up at certain times and then fire back down. I mean, Twitter's constantly battling spam bots.
Yeah, and there's a difference between spam and abuse. Obviously, if it's something abusive, you're going to want to be aggressive about reporting that. But if they're just trying to sell their red widget or whatever, just ignore it. That's what I mean.
Cool. I think we have time for one last question, and that comes from Marjorie. And Marjorie asks, should you tie your Twitter chat topics to your community content calendar? Well, since no one's answering, Marjorie, I would say absolutely. If you're planning content, tying everything together to help you continue that story you're telling as a brand is or a community. Definitely a smart thing to do.
Well, and I think Sarah and Nicole kind of touched on this earlier, that they already do that they're taking topics from the blog posts that they have, that their content team is working on, and using that as the actual topic for a Twitter chat, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we even are able to reach out to some of our guest bloggers or any experts that we've had on the blog to see if they'd be interested in being a guest on our Twitter chat, and a lot of times that complements very well, and we can explore ideas from the blog post a little bit deeper, or even go a slightly different direction or whatnot. We also pay attention to the comments in blog posts to kind of see if there's maybe unanswered questions or if there's another potential topic that the commenters themselves have suggested.
All right. Well, I said we had time for only one more, but it looks like we have time for 2. So let's go back to the script, shall we? Let's see. Tools, Twitter chats. What tips do you have? Oh yeah. So let's leave let's leave with a tip. So if somebody watching this, is interested in starting their own chat, what would you tell them?
I got three good ones. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just all I was going to say is it's a slow burner. Be patient. The community won't build itself overnight. You've got to give it time for it to build, for it to snowball into the chat you want it to happen.
Exactly, that's what I had. I said be patient, you know what I mean? And my biggest thing is trying to find a good time, day and time for your followers, because they're the ones coming to it. So, try to pick the right timing for them, whether it's midday or, evening's perfect for me. So, for me, I switch up the topics every week. Most people do. And then the biggest thing too, we looked at this earlier, but inviting people to your chats, so they know when to come. And like I said, I do it right before. And it was funny because earlier I was looking at another tweet that I was part of for a content chat. I guess it's on Monday, and then somebody's like, "Hey, put me on your list so you can remind me." And I was on that just literally minutes ago. So it's definitely been a benefit to bring people in.
I would say, too, to be really sure that you want to start one. Sorry, Sarah. Be really sure that you want to start one and really sure that you have a purpose and that you're willing to stick with it, and try not to be a carbon copy of something else that's already out there, because it is such a crowded space now. So look at whatever your goal is and make sure that that's how you get there, because it might be that you're better off to network with some of the other chats that are already going or take a different route. But I would say before you do anything, really do a lot of research and thinking on that particular issue of whether you actually want to do it.
And I had mentioned this before, but definitely participating in Twitter chats, you get a really good feel for it. And then you also connect with a lot of different people who also appreciate Twitter chats or might be interested in the same topic that you want to start your chat about. So connecting with people beforehand, I think, is super important too.
And I think my tip would just be to value those one-on-one relationships as well. Twitter chats are a great way to reach a lot of people, but at the same time, really getting to know who's coming to your chats. I love that Sarah sends individual reminders. I think that's really cool, and I think that builds just such a strong relationship with your Twitter chat community. So I will cliche, but at the same time, it's true. Quality versus quantity. It will win every time.
And with that, we're out of tips, and we're out of time. So that's good. Sherry, what's going on next week?
Next week, we are talking engaging community on a platform with Margot from Code Academy, Katie Bappel from Scotia's, and Aurelian, I believe. And sorry, I don't have that up right now, so just look him up. But I just tweeted it out, too, so you should have it. It'll be good times.
Awesome. That sounds great. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on Friday. See you next Friday. Have a great weekend and a great week. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.